Welcome to the City Plan and Zoning Commission meeting for August 7th, 2014. I'm going to read through the rules and procedures before we begin. The Plan and Zoning Commission is generally an advisory body to the City Council. City Council will hold a public hearing and make the final decision in all matters before the Commission other than site plans and preliminary subdivision plats. Commission's decision to approve or deny a site plan or preliminary subdivision plat is the final decision by the City unless the applicant appeals to the City Council. Please contact the City Clerk or Community Development Department staff for details on council hearings. The applicant will be given 10 minutes to present the request. Proponents and then opponents from the public are then allowed to speak in that order, with each speaker allowed a maximum of 5 minutes. The applicant is then allowed 5 minutes for rebuttal. Hearing will then be closed and the Commission will discuss and vote on the issue. All comments are to be germane to the item under consideration and speakers are to maintain a courteous manner. Items listed on the consent portion of the agenda will not be individually discussed and will be considered for approval in accordance with the recommendation in the staff report unless an individual present or member of the Commission requests that the item be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately under the public hearing agenda. The City of Des Moines is pleased to provide accommodations to individuals or groups with disabilities and encourages participation in city government. To better serve you, when possible, please notify us at least 3 business days in advance at 515-283-4209. Should special accommodations be required, assistive listening devices are available for meetings in the council chambers. Plan and Zoning Commission meetings are broadcast on Mediacom cable channel 7.1 or 7.2 for customers with that service. Everyone read minutes? Any changes? Motion, somebody? CJ? CJ's moved. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed?
Abstaining.
Christine's abstaining. Right now we have item 1 is on the consent agenda. You'd like to move 3 onto the consent? Okay. Let's do that first before we take up the consent agenda. First of all, are any commissioners opposed to that request? Anybody in the audience opposed to item number 3? Nobody, okay. Pardon? Yeah. So the first thing will be we're going to have a motion for item 3, and I'm going to read what item 3 is just to be clear. It's a request from Ronnie and Nancy Ivans to rezone property located at 126 East 28th Court. We have a motion to move it on the consent. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Okay, so right now we have item 1 and item 3 on the consent, and I'll read item 1. It's a request from Landmark Development Services, Inc., represented by Bill Spencer for review and approval of a preliminary subdivision plat, Skyline Plat 1 on property located in the 3400 block of McKinley Avenue to allow division of the property into 5 lots for single-family development. Subject property is owned by Priority Excavating, LLC. Anybody in the audience opposed to that item? Okay. CJ's moving the consent. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor of the consent agenda, raise your right hand. Opposed? Everybody. Okay. Which takes us to item 2. And I'll read it and then we'll have staff present it. It's a request from Three Stooges LLC, represented by Chris Fischels, to rezone property located at 3703, 3719, and 3727 Southeast 14th Street. Subject property is owned by Knoyer and Associates LLC and Revise LLC. Jason, presenting.
Chair, members of the Commission, Jason Van Essen with the City's planning staff. Let me get the response cards are being passed around, circulated. Show you the response map and then a series of some additional aerials. So the subject rezoning highlighted in yellow, notice boundary, green representing responses in support, red representing response in opposition. This aerial better shows the property along the east side of Southeast 14th Street corridor. To the north, the recent Dunkin' Donuts under construction, auto repair business to the south, and QT south of that, just to get everybody familiar. Indian Avenue C into the east on the map. The applicant, the entire site that the applicant has under purchase agreement or is acquiring also includes this land here. This is currently zoned limited C2, and I'll discuss that a little bit more as I get into staff rec. The balance is zoned R160, and then you have a C2 to the north, and then of course to the south. This map reflects the land use plan amendment. The Southeast 14th Street corridor is designated for commercial development. That map is somewhat general, but we're able to kind of gauge distances off of right of way, and so we've determined that line runs generally here, and so the proposed land use amendment that's before you as part of this rezoning request covers this area to the kind of the eastern portion of the site. We are at the rezoning stage, so this is just a concept. This isn't a site plan. If the property is rezoned and developed commercially, it would have to go through the city's site plan review process. At that point, we would look at stormwater management, landscaping, buffering. We'd look specifically at parking calculations, but this gives you an idea of what the applicant is looking to do at the site. 2 strip buildings, southern strip building having two bays, and then 4 bays in the northern strip center building with kind of parking in front and in back, tying in the frontage road system that's in place to the south and to the north to existing driveways with stormwater, at-grade stormwater facilities in the rear portion of the lot. I noted the existing part of the site that is zoned a limited C2. That was rezoned back in January 2001, and there are the conditions that pertain to that lot. I won't read them verbatim, but there's essentially limitations on the access, where access can occur. The first has to do with building materials. Second, that no vehicle access from the development shall occur through any residentially zoned property. And then this longer portion is discuss the requirement to provide connectivity with that frontage road, and that B is a prohibition of used motor vehicle sales. We've, as staff, have looked at both the 2020 community character plan with the future land use map and realizing the goals of that, and looking at the zoning. In general, we're supportive of the request. It makes sense. You got residential zoning that fronts a commercial corridor. It's a spot that's a good opportunity for redevelopment. Got to have the depths to make it work. We do have a couple of things that we would like to offer as conditions that we've made the applicant aware of. So we are suggesting a limited rezoning. And also a little bit of a different amendment to the land use plan than what they had initially proposed. The kind of the broader, with regard to zoning and the land use plan amendment, we are suggesting or recommending that the rear 120 feet of the property remain designated as low density residential and remain zoned as R160. So we're suggesting the zoning be limited to this portion of the site. The zoning change. We are also recommending that the conditions that exist on this part of the site, which is already commercially zoned, that those be carried over to the rest of the site. So as I noted, those have to do with connectivity through to the north and south, also the prohibition of any sort of connection points to to a street that's in a residentially zoned area, so basically that's here. And then also there's a couple comments on architecture with regard to material. So this is what our staff recommendation looks like. So Part A, we recommend that you find it not in conformance. Part B is the amendment to the 2020 Community Character Plan, the future land use designation, excluding that easternmost 120 feet. Part C is the rezoning request, where we are suggesting the eastern 120 feet be left as R160. The one thing that I forgot to note, there's also a circumstance where we have a property, I don't know if you can make it out on your screens before you, but this parcel is a single-family house with attached garage and driveway that extends this way and then down to the right-of-way at the dead-end segment of Southeast 15th Street. This driveway, their only connectivity to a public street actually happens on this person's property. If this was to come through our processes currently, this lot wouldn't be buildable, the house wouldn't be built because it has no frontage on a public street. We visited with the applicant about this, and we think this is a time to clean this up, minimize the impacts of development, and are suggesting that an easement be provided or some other agreeable means, but the easement seems to make the most sense for access for the existing driveway, so this house can have a legitimate access point. Excuse me. So that covers conditions 1 and 2. 3 is just pulling in the zoning conditions from the part that's already zoned limited. 3 and 4 actually come from the existing conditions on the part of the site that's already zoned limited C2. Happy to answer any questions you might have for staff.
Joanne?
Is there like fencing or anything going on between the property and the residence?
During this site plan review phase, they'd be required to comply with our buffering requirements, which would require 6-foot tall privacy fence and screen plantings. Buffer yard plantings include evergreen trees. But that would be something that would be evaluated at the site plan process.
So a fence at this point isn't in there?
It's not
Just the
identified in the
buffering
sketch.
for the trees and
Oh,
what have you?
Are you current condition?
Yeah.
I don't believe there's any fencing back in this area, but I
And
don't
it
know
just-
for a fact.
Okay, and I don't see any requirement for a fencing.
Well, it's required.
It is required.
Yeah, it would be reviewed at the site plan stage.
Okay, good.
And Jason, the site plan will come back to us.
No, this is a C2 zone, which is an administrative site plan process.
Jim? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would you happen to have a updated aerial of the Dunkin' Donuts so we can see the frontage of it versus what you're planning here?
I think actually the applicant's graphic is the best. I believe that this is a under construction site. Is that correct? Is this relevant? Okay, so I don't have their site plan, but this is generally how their site lays out the building and parking.
So we didn't do a sidewalk in front of this place, in front of the Dunkin' Donuts?
I
don't recall.
Okay, I don't know. It's under construction, so.
It's completed now.
I know, but in this aerial.
Yeah,
I
I
just
understand.
don't have the site plan.
Yeah.
No.
And one other question, Jason, just the frontage road in front of the CarX, when did we decide that we changed the code so we don't follow the frontage road anymore on 14th? Was that something that was preferred back when they built that?
I guess I'm a.
That's the building right to the south, right there.
They
Yep.
have the frontage road, and this comes
Right.
down the QT.
Mhm.
And so they're accommodating that through their parking, so it's still cross-access connectivity. We'll evaluate this closer. This is just their concept. We haven't spent any time looking at this
Okay.
from a site plan standpoint as to,
Understood.
you know,
Yep.
if our traffic department hasn't seen this,
Okay,
because, you know,
All
it's
right.
traffic.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Jason? Thank you.
Yep.
Will the applicant please come forward and give your name and address?
name is Dan Levi. I'm the owner of Levi Architecture. We're representing the client today. He was unable to, Mr. Fischel was unable to be here today. He's at his wedding rehearsal dinner tonight. So he found that to be a little more important if he wanted to actually get married tomorrow night. This is, as was stated by staff, this is just a concept, working with staff and the needs there a little bit. We obviously would continue with the process. We are aware of the requirements at the planning and zoning level for that review in terms of site plan, the screening, and the vegetation. We've had a public hearing or a meet and greet with some of the adjacent property owners. We have every intention to meet that need by a 6-foot-high fence with vegetation on the other side. Mr. Fischel's and the other owners of the group have also conveyed to me that today we can openly discuss the 120-foot staff recommendation easement. They are on board with that entirely. That small little sliver of space isn't going to be useful for much else other than green space set requirements and for potential at-grade detention. And then a legal easement is the only thing that we agree makes any sense for the adjacent property owner who's somehow, there must have been an easement at one time, but may have been lost or misplaced and not continued with the deed. That would be attached to the deed moving forward, and we would be happy to make that part of any staff recommendation. We'd make that part of the approval process.
Your address?
I'm sorry, 1009 Technology Parkway, Cedar Falls, Iowa.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir. Sorry about that.
Any questions? CJ?
I just have a couple questions here on some of the response cards we have. Someone is asking for a fence, and you've just said that you're going to agree to do that, the fencing
We
in
have no,
compliance? You've talked to these people?
we have not, I don't know, I guess I have not seen the cards. I don't know if we've talked to that person specifically. The fencing and the vegetation on the fencing is a requirement
Right.
of the jurisdiction, so we don't have a choice. I mean,
Right.
of course, we're going to do it, and I can make
Okay.
it sound very
Okay.
nice, but we have no choice.
Okay, and then you've just addressed the easement issue?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? I don't see any other questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else for the project want to speak? Anyone against the project want to get up and speak? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and
I'll move.
Member staff?
there's Christine and Joanne are moving
Did
staff.
they,
You pick.
class action there?
Any further discussion? None. Okay, we'll vote on it. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Probably.
Darn, huh?
Yeah, we'll probably do A first. We'll do a redo. We'll do A. All those in favor of A, raise your right hand. Opposed? Same vote. And now we'll do B and C together. Those in favor of B and C, raise your right hand. Opposed? Same answer. So, it passed with staff recommendation. Thank you.
Tell your client congratulations on his event. Tell your client congratulations on his event.
Okay, director report? No. Mike doesn't have one, and the R&O committee hasn't met, so that committee doesn't have anybody else. And is there yet a volunteer to chair the R&O committee? Please contact me. Christine will do it. Yay! Christine said she'd do it, and so it's so moved.
That was easy.
Yay! Pardon? What's Christine going to do? Chair the R&O subcommittee, since I would feel that I shouldn't. Overburdened, no, but I just shouldn't. With nothing else, we're adjourned. Cool.
Haven't seen you around in a while. Where have you been? New look, you found your style.